Hey everybody, it's Wild Man Z here. Some of you might remember me from a couple of years ago. I was making library tour videos. I think I may have even made a couple book videos, and I got kind of disheartened because I had no viewers. And so I was talking to one of my colleagues the other day at school. I work at a university, older gentleman, and he's an avid reader. And he asked me if I keep a log, written log, like he does of my books, and he was kind of surprised when I said I didn't. So what I decided to do, and I think it's a good idea, because a lot of books I've read and I forgot everything about them, even how it impacted me. You can always Google the plot points online, but sometimes a book, you were doing something when you read it, or thought something particularly, it affected you some way. I write a little bit. Book could affect positively or negatively my writing. Sometimes you're trying to write something and you end up reading Lovecraft and you find, or something like that, and your voice starts to change because some writers are very influential in terms of, if you read a lot of them, their voice. And I'm always noticing that, like, God, I don't want to sound like Lovecraft when I'm writing a story about my family or something. Although in some cases it might be applicable. But I decided to do this on the internet and put some of these videos out very unprofessionally. No lights or whistles or anything. Maybe I'll film some of them outside with some of the animals sometimes and so forth. But, if I don't get viewerships, that's fine. If you want to watch and enjoy it and hear my opinion on some books, that's great too. But I'm doing this mostly as a log for myself and also to practice my speaking, because I lecture and I notice that I have a lot of uhs and hums and all that as I speak. So I want to develop a little more professionalism in terms of just my speaking ability. I have a fairly decent vocabulary. I'm fairly well read, but sometimes I think I'm afraid of taking a pause when I speak, and so I want to practice a little bit that as well. For whatever it's worth, I want to make some videos. But I want to talk about this book, Vernor Vinge's Fire Upon the Deep. I've never read him before. I've heard about him a lot of places. Matt at Bookpilled, I think that's what it's called. I was calling it Bookpiled for a while. He's a really cool guy. He does mostly, not exclusively, sci-fi. He mentioned, I know Steve Donohue's talked about this book before. And I'll say this, Vernor Vinge, or Vinge, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, is a skilled writer. And he definitely knows his trade. It's not really the writing style that I enjoy the most. I kind of like things like Herbert and Dan Simmons, where they get a little surreal, a little strange. This guy's pretty much a very straightforward, very crafted writer, good cadence, but he doesn't have a lot of literary flourishes, which is that's fine. I mean, Asimov was a great writer, at least in the Foundation series, but it's very minimal in terms of artistic rendering. That wasn't his thing. He wanted to tell a direct, straightforward story. He's definitely a better writer than Asimov, but on the other hand, he's not. If you like more artistic writing, you want Anna Kavan or something, you're not going to get that here. But it is good, hard sci-fi. The storytelling and the complexity of the plot and the interesting aliens, a lot of aliens in this. He does a really great job presenting them, developing their personalities and so forth. I really liked it. He also, I would argue, it's hard sci-fi. He gets around things like faster than light travel by having, I think it's really interesting, he stratifies our galaxy where there's certain zones. The further out you go, the Earth would be in what they call the slow zone, where speed of light is held and we can only develop certain technologies, which he infers that we're kind of right now at the cusp of. They're in a region called the Beyond, which has different substrata. But you get the idea in this. There, for example, they have a lot of devices that you can control strictly mentally. They can go faster than light. The computers are much more elegant there and so forth. Although I think a lot of the computer technology is catching up to what he has in the Beyond right now, like the AI and so forth. But, he wrote this 30, 40 years ago. So it's I don't judge it on that. And there's a reason beyond that. I think they call it the transcendence or something like that, where there's really no humans or other regular type alien things there, because we have a whole bunch of aliens, hominid and other. But there's things that are like beyond bodies out there, like just pure minds and so forth. And then there's an inside, like they call it, we're not in it, but like the inner core of the Milky Way is something called the unthinking depths. And that's like, yeah, you got amoebas and bacteria and like very basic physics there. And, you can't really do anything there. You couldn't maybe go faster than the speed of sound. Nobody really goes there. So this is really cool. Basically, I'm almost done with it, but I don't want to give too many spoils. But they awaken the humans, awaken some sort of hidden power. It's some sort of an AI, if you will. That it's like a blight. It goes around basically capturing cultures and inundating them and subjugating them and making them into like zombies and so forth. There's basically some of the people escape to a planet where there's these. He describes them as dogs. They seem more like seals or weasels. They have very elongated necks, but they're really cool mammal of some sort that sort of the animal itself will be a cluster or a pack. They stay very close to each other. They sort of communicate telepathically or something like that together. They're like a unit. So we'll have like a name like Wick, Rack, Rackham. And it'll be like Wick would be one of them, Rack would be the other, and they kind of have a synthetic name. And they're pretty intelligent. They're like human level intelligence, but there would probably be in like the Middle Ages because they have some barriers. Like the little packs have to stay with each other, but if they get too close to another pack, they kind of get mind scattered and get all into a frenzy. So they kind of have to stay kind of isolated and keep a distance. And then they don't really have hands that work too good. So they're doing everything with their mouth and they have to work as a unit all the time. So they have some mechanical issues with doing things just like we do. They work around it using teamwork and being organized, but they're about Middle Ages. And there's a good bunch of them and a bad bunch of them. They've had some kind of war, and he goes into all sorts of details about that. And some of the humans, children, get separated, and they're kind of the pawns in this story and the motivation to save the kids on the microcosm and the macroscopic scales to save everything because you have the blight. We have a team kind of like, like having Star Wars with an adventuresome guy. His name is Fam Noyan. He's got an interesting backstory. And then a young woman named Ravna, who's sort of like a, intelligent person. And she's sort of a business person who gets wrapped up into this. And she's helping him out on the adventure. And they're accompanied by a couple of really strange aliens that are called something like Scroter Riders. And they're like a plant-like alien that rides a mechanical thing that gives them utility to move around and do things. That seems like it's got a little intelligence to its own self. But they're cool. They develop those two characters to have personalities, if you will, even though they're plants, and you end up liking them. It's sort of like in Star Wars. I mean, isn't the magic that Lucas was able to write something and visualize something to an extent where you like the thing that looks like a garbage can? I mean, so it's kind of like that. It's like, how could you love a plant? It's like, yeah, when they introduce the characters Blue Shell and Greenstalk, I think those are the names, they end up being in, sort of, they touch your heart. And again, it's very well written. Not purely my style of writing, but I would definitely recommend it. I would say, I don't give it numbers, but it's a very well written sci-fi book. I would argue it's hard sci-fi. Again, if you want Alistair Reynolds or somebody that hard, it's not that, but it's really well written. It's definitely in great sci-fi books. I would put it on the list. I don't know where I'd rank it. And a lot of that, again, deals to the writing style. Like, I'm really like Frank Herbert and Dan Simmons, Anna Kavan, writers like that. That's just my thing. But this is definitely a lot better than, let's say, your average Asimov story. That's for sure. So this is a good book. I definitely recommend it. We'll read more Vernor Vinge or Vinge. I'm not sure. I think this book is associated with another book, and I'll start making more book reviews and putting them up. Maybe people want to watch or comment, make a comment or two or whatever, tell me I suck. That's fine. But I definitely want to keep a record of what I've been reading, and I don't read maybe about a book a week. I'm not going to put textbooks and things like that. I read a lot of technical things that I have to do, but any kind of fiction or nonfiction that I read that's besides a textbook, I will definitely make a video for. Well, on that note, I'm up in New York, enjoying myself at my house. I hope everybody has a good night. I'm going to go feed the raccoons right now. They're outside, so you can watch some of my animal videos if you like that. So take care. Wild Man Z out.